Girlfriend cheated on him, so he stopped paying her car payments. She said that wasn't fair to her. So this happened to a friend, so the exact details are difficult to get, but this is what I was told. For ease of story and to hide identities, the names I will use are Jack and Jill. Bit of backstory, Jack and Jill had been going out for nearly 5 years by the point of this story. A year prior, Jill lost her job due to the company she worked for being liquidated. Money got tight for Jill, so Jack offered to help her by covering her car payments, monthly installments, road tax, insurance, and fuel, among other things, so that she could put the money she had to rent and utilities until she got a new job and was financially stable. Jack had a fairly decent job, so this wasn't a strain on his income. A year goes by and Jill was still unemployed, but not through rejections. She just got lazy and spent all of her day doing nothing around her house, whilst Jack was at work. One day, Jack got off work early and decided to surprise Jill on the way back home. But as he's approaching her house, he sees another car in her driveway. He parks on the street and sneaks up to the house and looks through the window to see Jill with another man. Jack was annoyed, but he didn't burst in there. He walked away, got into his car, and drove off. When Jack got home, he did a little digging and found out who the guy was through Facebook, and found out she had been having an affair for half a year with this guy. He now was really annoyed and wanted revenge, and he knew the best way to do it. This is where the revenge comes in. Jill loved her car even though she barely used it. So what Jack did was stop all the payments that were going out of his bank account and put them onto her account. As the car was in her name, it was easy to do. As the payments had only just gone out, he had to wait for the end of the month for his revenge to unfold. The end of the month comes and Jill's bank card is declined at the shops. She calls the bank up to find out what's going on, and they tell her she's gone into overdraft because of the car payments going out of her account. Jill phoned Jack and asked why the payment is coming out of her accounts and not his. Jack coldly replied, "'Cause I know you cheated on me and I'm not going to pay for my ex-girlfriend's car," and he hung up. The fallout of the revenge was she tried to get Jack to pay for the car, even got lawsuits involved, but as she was the sole owner of the vehicle, it was declared that he had no legal responsibility to pay for her car. As she couldn't afford her road tax or insurance, she couldn't drive the car, and eventually she got so far behind in payments that the car was repossessed. To pay the debt, she had to get a minimum wage job and now takes the bus to and from work. In short, girlfriend cheats on boyfriend, boyfriend stops paying for her car, leaves her in massive debt. Was he the jerk? Oh boy. Well, I have to do this now. Jack and Jill have a relationship spill because he walked in and caught her. Jack steps back and switches banks, and Jill becomes a commuter. Sorry, that was the best I could do on short notice. Well, there's no doubt that Jill was a bad girlfriend and not at all loyal or grateful to him for his financial and emotional support over her unemployment and over their 5-year relationship in general, which doesn't really set her up as not the jerk. And the fact that she thought she was entitled to his financial support after the end of their relationship for no reason at all is kinda baffling. But, and hear me out here, this guy, instead of just breaking up with her as soon as he found out, basically calmly bided his time and worked out the most destructive way he could end things and leave her in a pile of debt. And I get that it's betrayal. I get that finding out you're being cheated on is freaking awful. I just don't see how instead of storming into her house and justifiably having a freaking row, the author strategically went home and worked out the best way to financially destroy this unemployed woman's life. And keeping the relationship going until the end of the month while using her passwords and things to set it all up with her bank is just so weird and cold-blooded. Just tell her you're done, stop the car payments, and end the relationship. Both parties are jerks in the narrator's book. Entitled mum thinks she has to be invited to everything, gets her husband to scream at us. Sandy is my uncle's girlfriend. No one in our family but my uncle likes Sandy. Why? Well, for starters, she's still married and living with her husband and daughter. He's apparently cool with the uncle because they are, quote, separated. Secondly, she's a huge narcissist and throws a tantrum every time she doesn't get her way. About a month into my uncle and her dating, we were going to take family pictures, and she's there with her daughter. We ask her for a few pictures with just my grandma and her kids and grandkids, but that didn't go over well at all. Sandy starts screaming that she's dating my uncle, so that means she and her daughter are family too, and deserve to be in the pictures just as much as anyone else. Sandy has even stalked my grandma, who's only 4'9" and in her late 70s. Back in March, when the pandemic was starting, my grandma was still living alone, so she had to do her own errands. My grandma went to Costco one day, and there was Sandy casually running into my grandma. Sandy was thinking about getting a Costco membership, but she doesn't like the Costco that's 30 minutes closer to her. Then a few weeks later, she shows up at the same pharmacy that my grandma goes to, because Sandy's pharmacy didn't have the medicine she needed, so they sent her to the one that was 35 minutes away. Sandy also showed up at my grandma's bank on the exact day that my grandma decided to open a savings account for her grandkids. Sandy asked my grandma about what she was doing, and when my grandma told her, Sandy launched into a fit because, "What about my daughter? She's technically your grandkid too." My uncle and her had only been dating for about 3 or 4 months at that point. Just as my grandma was about to say something, the bank's security came over and asked if my grandma was okay. They knew her from decades of her banking there, as well as all of her kids and grandkids, so when my grandma said no, they immediately escorted Sandy out. Shortly after that, my grandma moved states to live with my aunt, and that's so far been the last stalking incident. On Thanksgiving, we all did a Zoom dinner instead of having a big gathering. About half an hour into the meal, my uncle's phone starts going crazy. Guess who it is? It's Sandy. She starts demanding to know why she wasn't invited and goes into full tantrum mode. So my uncle caves and sends her the link. As soon as she gets on, Sandy starts screaming, and her daughter, Amy, who's 12, is running around in the background screaming and crying that it's not fair. Sandy starts calling us all selfish jerks, and then her husband, remember the man she lives with, not my uncle, starts yelling at us that we can't do that to his wife. My grandma has had enough of Sandy and scoffed at her. "See? This is why nobody here likes you. This is why we do everything without you. This is why I'm so glad that you and that rabid kid of yours aren't invited to my granddaughter's wedding." No big dramatic ending, we just ended the call because everyone was super angry. We decided to do another one without my uncle this time, and that was fine. No, thank you. First of all, I'm going to clarify that although it's odd, I'm not going to question the fact that Sandy is married and living with her husband whilst in a relationship with the uncle. If they're separated, sure, she just hasn't moved out and they're co-parenting or something. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt there. But let's get past that. Yeah, Sandy is a bit bloody psychotic and the jerk of this story. The uncle shouldn't just keep inviting her to things to appease her if she's going to just act out like that, and if she's trying to force her way into the family. I'm sorry you're lonely, Sandy, but that is definitely not how you work your way into people's hearts and become part of everything. And you definitely don't stalk your prospective mother-in-law so blatantly. I mean, seriously, how was she getting such comprehensive information on where the old lady was going to be at any given time? I'll also say I wonder why Sandy's husband was so involved in trying to get her integrated with the new family. Is he just the most supportive co-parent in the world with a good friendship with her? Or is he trying to get her out of his house and out of his hands? Who knows? Calm the frick down, Sandy. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, linked below. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. I spoke to the manager and he said it was okay. Well, let's call and find out. Some backstory. A buddy of mine's family runs a small convenience store and bait and tackle shop in the US, and I help out every now and then since I work at a gas station. Like most other stores, the shop is currently operating at a 1 toilet paper or paper towel item per family policy. My friend's dad, the owner, told me in person that no one is allowed to buy more than 1 per family. No ifs, ands, or buts. Cue the scene. I'm waiting out the last half hour of when I said I'd help run the store on my own, when entitled dad and his kid walk in, decked out in fishing gear. The dad grabs a packet of worms, some sodas, ice, and snacks. As he passes by the toiletries section, he grabs 4 packages of toilet paper. So I say, "I'm sorry, sir, but store policy is currently only 1 per family." I call that out across the store, but this guy ignores me. He and his kid select a few more things and walk up to the counter. The kid is trying really hard not to be seen, so I can tell he knows what's coming. I say again, "Sir, unfortunately I'm only able to sell you one toilet paper package right now." The dad was already getting angry and red. Well, why not? Due to the pandemic and shortage, our store is only allowing one toilet paper item per family. Well, there's no sign back there. Yes, there is, sir. There's a sign every 6 feet around the store and at the register listing what items are being limited to. Well, I know the owner, and he says it's okay for me to buy as many as I want from here. The embarrassed kid has now retreated to the door, clearly wanting to leave and not be here. I said, "You spoke to the owner?" Dad was just scarlet at this point. "Yes, I did. Now, are you going to ring me up or what?" The owner specifically said that you could buy however much you wanted. "Yes. Can you please hurry it up? I want to be on the lake soon." "Sir, I know the manager didn't say anything to you because I'd have known about it." "Are you calling me a liar? I'm reporting you to the owner next time I talk to him." I pull out my phone. "How about now?" What? I call the owner and put the phone on speaker. "Let's call him right now. If he says it's okay, I'll ring you up and apologize." Before the dad can say anything else, the store owner picks up. "Hey Matt, what's up?" "Oh, nothing much. I have this guy here and he says you told him he could ignore store policy on toilet paper." "Sir, can I have your name so I know who I told?" The dad's face breaks out in hope, thinking that he's bluffed his way through this, and gives his name. There's a pause and then the store owner speaks again. "Look, I don't know who the heck you are or what the frick you're talking about. I haven't told anyone that they could ignore store policy. If you buy more than one, you're possibly depriving others that may desperately need it. And if you're on the john so much that you need more than one package, I'd seriously suggest you consult a doctor, not just buy more paper. If you can't follow store policy like every other customer that's come in, then you can leave." He hangs up. The dad has his mouth open in shock, while the embarrassed kid is looking like all major holidays and his birthday are happening today. The dad shuts his mouth, stands in front of the register for a few seconds, shouts a final "F you" and storms out of the store, leaving all of his items at the counter. In short, entitled dad tries to bluff his way into bypassing store policy. So I call the store owner to call him on it. The store owner calls him out on being entitled. Excellent. Take that, Ken. Which for those of you who don't know is what we call a male Karen here. I will say that this is the first case I've seen of a Ken rather than a Karen trying to use this tactic, but of course it makes sense. Yeah, look, the lockdown and shortages stage of the pandemic seems so long ago, so it can be easy to ask what the big deal is now. But I say screw this entitled dude. He's literally trying to take items that are in short supply away from other people who need them, and clearly understands that the laws are in place enough to lie into the bargain. Also, have to love his kid being so tired of his crap that he's actively rooting for his dad's downfall. I know it's normal for teenagers to actively root against their own parents, but every now and again you should probably check whether they're doing it for regular stupid teen reasons or maybe because your behavior is actually that awful. And now I'm remembering all the videos of people actually brawling over fricking toilet paper 4 years ago. Let's hope that we never have to go through anything like that again, folks. We're clearly not built for it. Both a mother and father called the cops on me because I was a nice person and wouldn't give them my car? Okay, so a little bit of background. Where I live, there's this car show held in memory of someone in our town who died of brain cancer, and all proceeds go to research for that illness. The show is held at a raceway nearby, where everyone is welcoming and kids get in for free while the parents have to pay $2 Australian to get in, while the people entering the car show, or are going to go around the track, pay a premium. Now, the story. I'd entered my car into the car show and paid extra for it to go around the track during the time event. The car show part was for a few hours before the warm-up, before the time trials, where anyone entering could go up to 3 practice laps to get used to the course. Now, this is where the child came in. Before the practice laps start, the kid said that he liked my car, a 1977 Leyland Mini, and he started asking me about it and how I got it. Everything was normal. My family, who was with me, said I should let him sit in it, and I agreed, but thought I could take it a step further and let the kid sit in the passenger seat during one of my warm-up laps. I said to him I'd let him go around the track with me just as long as I had his parents' permission. When he heard this, his little face lit up and he went to go get his parents. I thought all was normal until the following happened. I was waiting around for the kid and his parents to show up. I hadn't moved from my spot and was doing some pre-checks on my car before I went out. 20 minutes had passed and I thought it was taking a little too long for him to come back to give me an answer, but I thought I'd wait just a little longer just in case he was lost. Next thing I know, another 20 minutes have passed and then another. I'd waited an hour for him to show back up and I needed to get on the track. My car was ready half an hour ago and I'd already gotten permission from the race organizers to have a young passenger for one lap of the practice run. I'd gotten tired and went to start the car when the kid actually showed up with his parents, the entitled pair. They instantly asked me if I was up to something. By the way, I just turned 18 at the time and had my girlfriend with me at the race, keeping track of my times. I told them I just wanted to give a kid a chance to see what it was like in a road race car, just like how someone else had let me when I was his age. After hearing that, they took a few steps back and started talking, but they took 10 minutes to do so. Tired of waiting, I told them it was final call. It's either yes or no and I need to get on the track now. They gave me the stink eye and finally said that their kid could go with me. I had him get in and put the 5-point belt on and we headed for the first practice run. I told him to hold on and don't scream while I'm driving. He seems to understand, but during the lap he did the exact opposite. Once it was over, I had a headache and was still trying to be nice and I asked him if he had fun. He said he did and wanted to go again. I said from now on I had to be by myself and he started yelling at me and got out of the car, slamming the door behind him. I just had it at that point and went to do my last 2 laps. Once they were over, we stopped for a quick break and this is where everything went downhill. First up, I had the entitled parents come up to me and yell at me for not letting their kid go again. I explained to them that I technically wasn't allowed and only got permission to do 1 lap. They were livid. The next thing I know is one of the organizers said to them their kid could go around the track in one of the rental trucks with his father, but it would cost $300 dues. The entitled kid said no and that he wanted to go around in my car, but I said that he couldn't. The next thing I know, the entitled father is yelling at how it's a rip-off and we're wasting money on people who are going to die anyway. I lost it at that point and told him to leave, but the organizer said what they said was fine and we don't need to make this work. I left with the organizer after that to avoid more of a confrontation. Skip forward half an hour and the time trial is about to start and guess who came back? It's the mother this time. She said she was sorry and wanted to talk. I said later and she yelled out $400 and was offering up $400 dues for my entire car. I told her no and to get out of here. Next thing I know, Dad rocks up and says $700. I said no and that I have more money in the car than they probably have in their bank. The father responded, saying that my sad, rusted piece of crap is not worth more than $1,000 and that I'd get more from crushing it than selling it. I told them to leave as they wouldn't like what would happen next if they got in my way. I hopped in my car and drove off right past them. Once the time trial was over, I went to park in my spot to find my girlfriend and grandfather being talked to by cops, while the entitled parents were pointing at me. 2 officers came over and told me to turn off and get out of the vehicle. I did so and asked what was going on. The entitled parents had called the cops, claiming I stole their car and touched their son when I had him in the car. I told the cops the car was in my name and I have footage inside from a camera in my car that I use for studying my driving techniques. They asked to see the footage and I willingly showed them. They said I'd done nothing wrong and I had my parents bring down the proof of sale for my car. The entitled pair kept trying to screw me over until the father hit a bystander. The cops arrested him for assault and took the wife in as an accomplice. I haven't heard anything from them, but now one of the officers from the incident is a good friend who I go to drag races with, so at least something good came out of this. Oh, come on. Who decides that calling the cops over an easily disprovable false theft is in any way a good idea? If they wanted to nail you for anything, they should have just left it with their frankly morally revolting fake charges of inappropriate behavior with kids, because they couldn't have known that you'd have the video proof in your car. But stupidity aside, they just seem like awful, greedy, grasping people. They suspected you of bad motives from the start because bad motives are all they seem to possess. Then they tried to screw you out of a car because their kid wanted it, after you'd shown them some kindness and taken their son for a fun ride. alternating their bad offers with personal insults and telling you that the car they very clearly wanted was crap. And of course, the dad just decided to go fists flying and whack someone. At that point, there wasn't any doubt that they couldn't have anything they said taken seriously. Just reprehensible jerks on every level that's presented to us. I hope that the kid got taken into child services soon, because that's the only way he was getting any good parental role models going forward. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories. Or if you want to check out some great music, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, give Am I the Genius a shot. Everything linked in the description.